So the big problem with AI nowadays is that the people building the AI have no real idea of what is the extent of the power of the magic boxes that they are building. And maybe by this point, if maybe you're watching this live stream, you're watching my video, we are in 2026. By this point, most likely you have already used some sort of AI. Maybe you have used ChatGPT. Maybe you have used, I don't know, maybe Gemini or Meta's AI, which I always forget to mention Facebook's AI, which, by the way, Facebook failed with their metaverse experiment that they wanted to push their virtual insanity into us. But sticking to AI, the issue is that you have noticed that you ask ChatGPT a question, and you get a response. And for some reason, you ask ChatGPT the question, and sometimes, you notice you're just asking ChatGPT for some kind of reinforcement, or you just want an opinion on something that you have been thinking about, and you want an opinion from ChatGPT, all right? So ChatGPT says something that maybe makes 90% sense to you, and the 10% left is something unhinged, and you say, hey, wait, ChatGPT, that doesn't make sense. You are maybe making things up. Maybe you're answering something that I did not ask. Maybe you are leading me to something that can harm myself. But you notice that. You realize that something is wrong, and you call out the AI. And what do all these AIs do? They do the same. Oh, you are absolutely correct. I was wrong. Thanks for pointing that out. And that's the moment that I realized I'm going to give you an analogy so you understand how bad this is. I'm not going to start small. You know, I'm a graphic designer, right? And starting graphic design, well, I always had this question: how can you make your client know that your design, what you design for them, is good for them? Because some clients have no idea of what is good and what is bad, and that they're hiring you for a reason. It's like maybe you don't have any idea of how plumbing in your house works, so you look for a plumber to work on your plumbing. That makes sense, right? And maybe you have zero idea, and they tell you, we have to replace all this wall plumbing because of yada, yada, yada. You have no idea what they're talking about, and you say, hey, yeah, let's go with it. It's going to be $2,000. You have to pay for that because you are ignorant, and that's okay, ignorant about plumbing. It would be nice if you knew a bit of plumbing so you can ask questions and see if they are not trying to fool you, which, by the way, happens a lot when you go to to get your car serviced. They tell you that your engine has to be brumbo jumbo, and you said, all right, I don't know anything about engines, so be it. So in design, happened the same. How can somebody tell that a graphic design or a website design or any sort of design is good or bad? They cannot, and anyone with a bad design could scam those people. You're realizing, right? That this is a problem. This is a gap of information. You request for a service, and unless you know a bit of what you're requesting, you can be scammed. You can be fooled. So we go back to the AI, and you ask ChatGPT a question, maybe about your symptoms. You have some kind of symptoms. Oh, ChatGPT, you know that I have some numbing in my these two fingers, and I have this sensation on my show. And ChatGPT begins, having all these theories about what you could have. And maybe ChatGPT is statistically correct, and that would be nice. But the problem is that 10%, that 5%, that 1% that can be a complete hallucination or made up thing that does not exist or does not apply to you. And if you're not a doctor and I'm not a doctor, at least I know some about anatomy. Okay, since I'm an artist as well. I've studied anatomy. I've studied anatomy in a medical sense to be a better artist. Maybe I can understand, okay, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. I can ask questions to see if ChatGPT is or not full of shit. And sometimes it is. But what if you, like in the plumbing situation, have no idea about plumbing, have no idea about any legal troubles that you can get into because of this contract that you ask ChatGPT, and ChatGPT says, yeah, sign that contract. That looks good to me. Or tells you about something, about A, and it turns out that you have to take a look at B instead, because that is a possibility. And everybody knows that there's this thing called hallucinations. When an AI, due to the way that it is trained into, the way that it is trained, can make up things on the spot. Now, the actual problem, a very real problem, and a very real threat is that, of course, when we go into the realm of health, we go into the health of military stuff, because there's this 1% that can go wrong. And 1% is a very non-negligible part of this. So you understand a bit how this works. I'm going to explain how these AIs are trained. You have this massive amounts of data. If the AI is going to have, I don't know, some kind of opinion on health or in writing or anything, they are trained on all the books, on the medical books, all the medical records they can, everything that they can get their hands into in terms of health or novels or magazines or anything. And if it's an image, if you want an image, for example, this is a thing. I came out with this. Maybe you want an image of a cat. Okay, you need an image of a cat. Maybe I need an image of a cat for a video, like I needed an image of this Terminator next to World Economic Forum logo. It was generated on Grok. It was a nice job, even if the Terminator is not quite the Terminator, and the Terminator has 3 rows of teeth, which I don't know how that works, and that is not Terminator's nose, but it is more or less accurate. But let's say that if a robot is performing surgery on you for an appendectomy, let's say that you don't want it to be directionally accurate or mostly accurate. You want it to be 100% accurate. And then if you want the image of a cat, you need to train these machines in thousands or even hundreds of thousands images of cats, so they know how to make a cat in every position. That's how you see memes of cats doing all crazy things, because these AIs have been trained of a lot of images of cats. But the issue is that there's one word, very technical word, that makes all the difference between having an actual tool that you can predict what's going to do, that you can predict that's going to be good for you, and that could be a disaster for all humanity. That is being non-deterministic. And being non-deterministic is as simple as you are essentially not asking a computer a question. You are in Las Vegas at a casino at the slots machines. You're on the floor with the slots machines. You know, you're in front of a slot machine, but this slot machine doesn't have 3 rows, doesn't have 5 rows. You know that some of them have 5 rows, some of them are digital. This slot machine has 1 million rows. And every time you pull the lever, you can get, let's say, 1 result and 1 image of a cat, or maybe 1 diagnosis of what your symptoms are. And you say, okay, fair enough, sounds nice. But you want to make sure about what's going on. So you pull the lever once more. And again, you get another image of a cat, and you get another diagnosis. But the interesting part is that the second cat that you get, it is a cat, but it's not like the first cat. It's a different cat. Maybe you want to add more details. Maybe you want to, it's an orange cat on top of a trash bin on a street at night in front of a bar that has neon signs. I don't know. You can be as detailed as you want. You can have a prompt that is 20,000 words long, and every time you pull the lever, you're going to have a different cat. A similar cat, but a different cat. And in terms of the healthcare, you're going to get, you guessed that right, no matter how specific the symptoms, no matter how specific everything, you're going to get a different result. You're going to get a different diagnosis. Why? Because of the non-deterministic nature of every single one of these AIs. It doesn't matter if it's on text. It doesn't matter if it's of images. It doesn't matter if it's videos. Every single one of these AIs is trained under the same pattern, the same, we could say, algorithm, same technology. It leaves that tiny, not that tiny gap of non-deterministic nature in which every time you pull the lever, you're going to get a different result. And you can get crazy results. Let's say that you ask the AI, this is the Sigmund Freud will understand. I came up with this example. Let's say that I want the image of a small cat, or I want the image of a kitty, or I want the image of a pussy, and yeah, you're maybe in that non-deterministic way, and since it is trained on every single kind of image that you could imagine, and every single image that is out there, yeah, with the prompt, you're going to get different results. But sometimes even with the same prompt, you're going to get different results. So how can you possibly trust something, even if you made it, even if these people have trained these machines, even if these people have trained these magic boxes, they don't know what is going to come out on the other side of the prompt. They don't know. They have no idea. And that is why for them it's so important that you say I like this answer. Sometimes you ask ChatGPT a question and it gives you two answers. Choose the answer that you think that is better. They're using that to make you train the AI and to know which is the better answer. They generate 10 images at once, and they don't generate one cat. They generate 10 cats, and they notice which is the one that you zoom into, the one that you pick, the one that you download, the one that you like. Okay, this is the cat that they wanted. You are training the AI for them because they have no idea. They have no idea which is the right cat for that prompt. And then the AI is learning just because we are using it. And you could have a question. You could say this. So Jesus, what if we keep training the AI 1 billion times every day? Not every day, maybe 1 million times every day. Every single person on earth prompting ChatGPT, Midjourney, Grok, all these AIs. All these AIs are also learning from those prompts and from more questions and everything. Are these AIs going to become or get rid of that non-deterministic nature? They cannot get rid of their nature. They cannot get rid of their randomness, because the depth and the complexity of what we are talking about. Right now, you can ask for some poetry from some silly song, from some silly meme, and nobody get hurt. But what if they say, we're going to have AI that assists doctors performing surgery, and I'm going to tell you this. I am a big fan of Elon Musk. I I think that he has done great stuff for humanity. He's doing a lot of stuff. But when he says that 5 years from now, robots will be better surgeons than humans, I man, I found that offensive, just because there's nothing like human ingenuity. There's nothing like human ingenuity. There's a part of us. Something that AI also does is that it is training. Let's go back not to the pussies, but the cats. Let's talk about the cats, right? We have this 20 million images of cats, of orange cats. And when you ask it for an image of a cat, it's going to go for the average image of a cat, the mean, the standard image of a cat. It's going to standardize the image of a cat, the one that it's going to hand to you. We humans don't act like that. We like to explore what is the fringe edge of sanity in creativity. And that's what makes us human. And that's what has brought us here. That ingenuity, a human ingenuity, is what has brought us here. And that's what makes life so beautiful, because we can make big mistakes, big human mistakes, but we can have big wins in which we have never thought that we would achieve. Have so much winning, so much losing, so much mistakes, so many tears, so many laughter. That is being human, and that's because we never settle for the standard. We want to push. What if I do this? It's like my experimentation with vertical streaming that didn't go well, but I did it. I have the satisfaction to say that I made it work. That is human ingenuity. That is what can save us from this wave that is coming and what they want to push onto us, which, not gonna lie, I'm not gonna be a hypocrite. I use AI daily for many automated tasks. It is great for a lot of stuff when you know when you know what the AI is doing. Going back to the plumbing example, if you hire a plumber, maybe you have some idea of how the plumbing works, and you understand what your plumber says, what is the problem, and say, okay, that problem makes sense. So go ahead, I will pay the $2,000 gladly, because I know that I understand the problem, I see the problem, and what you say makes sense. But then again, the AI can only be helpful if we know in advance what it's talking about, if we know about the topic. And that is my question to you. Are you willing to give an AI the power to perform surgery on you? That is my question. That is how these machines work. That is how these guys building these magic boxes have no idea of what is inside, how does it work, and what is the extent of the power. They're relying on users to find out what the magic boxes are capable of. And that is the big question now. Where are we headed? And that's why so many of them are terrified if they're not psychopaths. Because if they're psychopaths, and some of them absolutely are, they are excited, as you can imagine. But I would like to know what you think about this in the comments. A fascinating topic.